Okay, so this is the third open chess tournament that we've been to. And we have just played today game 1 and game 2. Tomorrow we play game 4 and 5. I took a bye in round 3. So this is part 1 of the third OTB Open Chess Tournament. It's titled The Meek Fights Back Hard Against the Strong. Based on the lessons learned from the previous Open tournaments, learned a little bit from those, try to bring that into these games as best possible. So this is the first game. We're playing as black. Opponent opens with e4. And for a brief moment I thought, oh, that's the way that I deliver. It's very rare I'm seeing people doing e4. They're usually coming out with these weird stuff. So we go and push and block. Bring the knight up, because we're kind of familiar with this type of positioning. They bring the pawn down and all seems pretty normal. Bishop comes through and we've been practicing this type of situation, haven't we, for ages? You know, stopping the fried liver type thing. I did for a brief moment think, surely they're not going to go for the fried liver against me. Surely they're not. You know, high-rated players not going to go for the fried liver, are they? Surely. But they went with the movements. I'm thinking, okay, fair enough. Let's just see what magic they've got in store. They capture. And I decided not to capture because I didn't want to give them any advantages in developing their queen. And then getting that silly looking position here and then putting the pressure on the king here type thing. So I thought, from lessons learned from the training that we've been doing, I thought, well, let's just bring the knight up here, whether it's right or wrong. And then they did this pawn push here. I've never seen that, really, I don't think, in the games I've played. Which made me think, oh, maybe they're a little bit wary of what's actually transpiring. But I thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to be taking the knight or not. Maybe we need to be getting castled. Maybe we need to be looking to get the pawn up like we like to do to, you know, stop this pawn, maybe pushing onto the knight. So we pushed onto the bishop. So to give them something to think about, probably was expecting the pawn to probably push down, I'm thinking, but we could take the bishop off the board if they did do that. And I was taking a long time over my moves. I was taking an extremely long time over the moves. And I was just enjoying the game because I don't get to play higher rated players, and I've put myself into the open to play against these higher rated players. For the experience. Then they move the bishop because they don't want to lose out. And I'm thinking, well, okay, we are expecting this to come at any time. So maybe we'll just come and bring the bishop here. Again, just trying to develop my pieces rather than looking to go for the captures. So we bring the bishop through, just supporting, and they capture. At this point, I took an extremely long amount of time over this move. I wasn't bothered about taking time, you know. At the end of the day, it's there for your enjoyment, and I'm trying to look at improving the quality of my game so that I can feel more happy with the games. It's not about the win, it's about the quality of the games. Understanding what these other players, these high-rated players, are attempting to do on the board. So I decided to capture back with the bishop, because what I wanted to do was give the knight some space, because we know the pawn's going to be coming here. That's what we were guesstimating. That's the worst case scenario. So we could bring the knight here, and if they're looking to push it a bit further down, I'm not too sure if it's losing the thread or not. So it does push down. So because we've moved the bishop out of the way, we didn't mind doubling the pawns, because we've practiced against that as well. We've practiced understanding that, yes, it is a weakness, but we can try and turn it into a strength if we can. And they continued with the pawn push, and I did find that a little bit odd, because I didn't really see anything else that was supporting it. So I brought the knight up, attacking the pawn, and the computer saying there was something better. It's f taking, also it's the pawn taking. Yeah, but I really didn't want to invite the knight in, attacking the queen. Obviously that was one of the calculations. and so I wasn't really interested in that. I was thinking, well, maybe can their queen get through here, but then realizing the pawn is blocking it, so it's not really got much activity. But still, it's not a nice position, I don't think, having the knight there. But the computer is saying that that would have been the better move. So something to think about. I wasn't looking any further than getting the knight up, getting it out of the way, capturing, and again, it was like basically realizing the queen's not got a check on the king here. So feeling a little bit happier and more comfortable with the position. So move the bishop out of the way, seeing as we don't need to give them first blood. And I was a little bit mindful of the queen coming here, putting a check on the king, winning some tempo, squishing my king in here. So this is why I pushed the pawn up, just to basically say, well, okay, if you do take, then the rook will take. Computer doesn't like that at all. And it's saying rook e8. So it's basically bringing the rook here. I did think about all of those moves as well. Rook here, here, that type of thing. But I just really thought, well, I'm going to lose tempo. I don't want to lose tempo. I want to try and block off the attempts that they've got. Obviously, it's not happy with that. We lose a few points there. Was it 1 point? Minus? Yeah, we lose maybe a point. So they develop their knight. They're attacking the pawn, which has got no protection on. So we bring the pawn up, just supporting, nice and steady. And they move their knight back. I was a bit quizzical about the knight move, but where was it planning to go? Was it coming here? What was it attempting to do? So we bring our bishop through, looking to see if we can strike first blood with the double pawns. That's as simple as I can put it. Also making space for the rook maybe to come here as well. Get the king here if it can. We don't have any castling rights, and before we get any of that done, the knight jumps in. So we take it off the board. Took ages over this move, took ages over it, because at the end of the day he's going to have a discover check with his rook on our king. So they, excuse me, saying g8 with the king. That was, I was just like, oh, do I go here, do I go here? Definitely not here. I was like, well, should I just go here? Just move it out of the way. But then I had this thought of the knight jumping here and attacking the rook, and then I'm having to bring my rook here, and it's kind of out in no man's land, because then the pawn just pushes down and it's blocking the knight in. Then my rook's got no play, and then the bishop will just come and get it. So I had that bit of a panic on there, but I think the computer's saying that that's okay, I suppose. Is it? Would they do that? Not too sure. Let's just have a quick shifty. No, maybe not, because I'll mess up the configuration, won't I? Okay, so we captured, and they captured, and it's showing draw, which is interesting. So we move the king out of the way. So this is showing a draw. Looking at the tail of the tape on the board, I'm playing like a 2001 rated player, and she's really focused on the game, and it was a very interesting position for myself, because I'm thinking, well, it doesn't look like there's much that they can do. The only thing I was bothered about was not having my rooks linked up to try and challenge their rooks in some way. And all I was thinking was the only place the queen's going to be coming to put a check on is there, but the knight is here. But that can be easily seen off with the pawn attacking the knight type thing. So I'd have to jump around here. That's what I thought was potentially going to be happening in that sphere. But in terms of the position on the board, felt fairly okay, but felt jammed in because my rook wasn't actually in the game. So they come and attack the knights. So we bring the queen through again. Took ages over these moves because wanted to develop, make sure that the rooks have the potential for linking up and maybe challenging their rooks on this open file, rather than moving the knight, because I was umming and ahhing about moving the knight here. Queen drops down, and they're making space for their rooks as well, but it's also potential for this here. So I was very mindful of that. We'll bring the king up because it's given us a bit of time to get the king out of the way and link our rooks up, and hopefully we can challenge the rooks. And I had a moment of reprieve where I sort of thought, oh, crikey, looks like we can go and challenge the rook. So we do that. Not speedily by any chance, not speedily at all. This was not blitz, rapid or anything. This is long play game. How many seconds was it increment? Is it 10 seconds or 20 seconds? 10 seconds, I think, something like that. And then the bishop went back. I've never seen that before either. So I was a little bit confused with that bishop move blocking. I thought they would have just gone for the exchange, but they obviously don't want to go for a draw. This is why they obviously haven't gone there. So we bring the bishop through now, so it's basically attacking the pawn, but it's also looking to be protecting the king from the queen coming here, because I was very panicked that, as we mentioned before, the knight is going to get hit, and then the queen's going to start jumping all over our king. So again, shocked by this small pawn move here, thinking, okay, it looks like they're running out of ideas, so maybe there's some sort of draw situation going on here. So we bring the knight up, and we're attacking 3 pieces, which is fairly interesting. We're also on this pawn as well. I'm not thinking we're going to get this pawn, but it would have been nice if we could. And they took, and then we brought the bishop into the center, leaning on pawns. Would have to be a sacrifice of a piece to actually take the bishop off the board, because there's nothing else that can actually move that bishop. Then they bring their bishop in, supporting their pawn. And at this point here, I'm just thinking, let's just take pieces off the board and let's just challenge the bishop and see where it wants to go, because we're trying to make some space coming up towards potentially maybe coming here, but obviously the bishop is going to be all on its own. But if we can challenge this bishop, if it goes there, then it gets trapped. I was hoping they would do that, but they're a higher rated player, they're not going to do those sort of things. Okay, so it moves back, and I'm very conscious again of this particular position. We'll go and challenge the rook, and as you can see, the computer's showing draw, land, and we're on move 27, and I'm playing against a 2001 rated player. I cannot stress that importance of the level of player that I'm playing against in this game. And I'm 1376. With the practice we've been doing, I'm feeling fairly confident that we're getting better. I'm happy, I'm comfortable. There's still a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of work to do, but, you know, I'm enjoying the games even more. So the bishop comes through, it's supporting the pawn, but it's supported by the queen. So I'm thinking, is that overworking the queen or not? So we start just pushing here, just to basically see if we can get the pawns pushed up and get them supported somehow, get them onto the white squares, if possible. And they start pushing their pawns down, and we just push to link this up so that the queen's not looking to take this pawn. Queen comes down, it's attacking this pawn. But my thought process is thinking, I want to try and get this, but I need to get this here first. But got the pawns that can support, can come here. And then because of thinking so long, I'm thinking about, oh yeah, the potential for them to do this, that and the other. And when you start thinking too long, sometimes you can get that tunnel vision thing. I move my queen up, yep, to support the pawn, because he's hitting the pawn twice with the, well, he's hitting it once, but I didn't want to get a further piece involved, and then he's getting the pawn for free. So I bring the queen up here, and that basically is giving up the pawn, which is not good. Yeah, but it's still showing draw at this moment in time. It is saying take the pawn. Yeah, so if the queen did take, I don't want to take because it kind of messes up the configuration, I think. I may have to do that on my own at some point. But if it did take, is there some magic thing? I was looking at probably doing this if it did take, because I sat there thinking, oh, I've just given up the pawn. So I would just do that, but that's probably not going to be right. But anyway, that's what happened. That's where the game ended. Well, not in terms of notation, because I was under 5 minutes, so I didn't need to do any notations after that point. So at that point then, basically, yeah, I stopped notating, so I had to move pretty swift. And the upshot is I ended up kind of losing the advantage that we had. Well, it's not an advantage, the draw status. Getting to this state here, I mean, this is like move 32 against the 2001. I'm really chuffed and pleased with that. This is the second game that we played today in the OTB tournament open section, playing against a 2066 player, and we are 1376, and we're playing as white. So opened with the trusted e4, developed the knight, and for the life of me, I got the shock of my life again, seeing normal, steady, basic opening. All the stuff that we have been practicing for years, simple. But then they got arty with this bishop coming here. I'm thinking, okay, just keep it simple. These moves, we both blitzed out because I thought, well, this looks fairly safe unless they do something pretty odd and strange. So we captured, brought the queen up, captured. So I did say to myself, oh, struck first blood. So we're fairly happy with the double pawns. Brought the bishop through, protecting the queen. Didn't want to do anything crazy. Didn't want to develop their knight for them in that sense. Developed our knight supporting, so trying to get the pieces out into the game, basic chess. And just bringing the bishop supporting the pawn because somehow he's got like a few pieces already trained in on there. So he's attacking the queen, expected. So again, potential for attacking the pawn, but like we say, we don't really greedy munch the pawns with the queens unless it's nailed on. So they've moved the bishop out of the way, and we're saying to ourselves, let's develop our pieces rather than capturing, because he's wanting to open this up and start putting pressure on our king side if we're castling king side. So they captured, brought the bishop through, it's attacking the pawn here. They castle queen side, we castle queen side. Computer doesn't really like the queen side castling, but it's nothing major. And I start pushing forward now. I'm thinking, oh, okay, it looks like they've run out of ideas. They're just coming with the old Scud missile sort of stuff. So we just go and block the pawn off with the bishop. Again, feeling fairly relaxed and seeing the knight jumping in here. Looking for again. Looks like cheap tactics type thing, but it's a tactic that is working for them because they've got two pieces on the pawn, and also the knight has got playability on attacking these if the bishop wasn't there, and it's also waiting for us to push the pawn up onto the knight so that then he can start harassing the rook and the pawn. So very mindful of that. So I brought the rook across. Very mindful, if we did push, he's going to do this, and then he's going to be on both the rooks. So now they're looking to go and double our pawns. Took a while over these moves. I'm thinking, okay, I think we'll have to resign ourselves to losing the knight. So we may just have to push the pawn up so that the bishop doesn't get this pawn for free. So we push the pawn up, captures, and we capture. So feeling fairly comfortable. It's nothing unusual with the position in any way, shape. Feeling fairly relaxed and comfortable. And opponents getting a little bit frazzled, obviously, because I'm the lower rated player. They don't want to be losing against a lower rated player. They will lose a load of rating points. So I'm really happy and comfortable with that aspect of, dude, I am going to have to just take them to town over everything, every move, every game, as best possible. As the Meek player, I'm trying to come out hard and strong against them. So now the knight moves, I'm thinking, well, I don't really want this knight having danceability around here. So we just take it off the board. And as you see, it's just showing drawish at the minute again against a 2066 rated player. I'm 1376. The practice is working. Got still loads of work to do, as always, with chess. If chess was like a thing where, yeah, you had all the answers, bang, then everybody would get the answer, you know. So it's a constant developing thing, and I'm feeling fairly comfortable with what we're doing at the minute. Just enjoying the games even more, especially playing in the open section. It's really interesting. So we push the pawn up. There's me rambling on. Push the pawn up, just supporting the pawn because we're obviously thinking the rook is going to come and hit it. And then start pushing down onto the pawn here. Did see all this, I thought to myself, but this is the only move he's going to do, and he actually did it. And so we captured back, and I think the move order of things started to go a little bit strange here. We captured, feeling fairly happy with the position, but not because we're having to support this pawn now. But I'm sure there's moves that could have been done to improve the position. Maybe I should have been bringing my king across here to actually come and support, but in my head I'm thinking he's got more pawns than us over here. So we blocked down with one pawn, and then we pushed up with the other pawn just to try and meet these pawns. But what it's saying is rook h. Ooh, it's saying give the pawn up, and we're not going to mess with the configuration. Although maybe I can find it better this time. I don't know if it finds it. Oh yeah, because that one had finished, hadn't it? So I think we'll be able to find it. So it's saying rook h1. Not much of an advantage. Why is it saying b6? They're not doing that. I'm sorry, they're not doing that. They've got both pieces on here, so something's taking something. I don't think they'll take with this because then the rook will come here. So the rook's not taking because the bishop will take. Oh, interesting times. Interesting times. So that's what. Oh my gosh. Rook g1. Oh. Takes an. Oh. Oh. Oh, that's nice. That is nice. Because I took ages over the moves, you know, and we blitzed out the earlier parts, but I took absolutely ages over these next few moves, and that was one of them. This was one, but I quickly knocked that one out because it's not good. But I did think about this one, but again, I just thought, well, no, it's just gonna. Oh, I was so focused on these. Yeah, so focused on these, thinking, oh, he's gonna win. I should have just hung back a little bit. Interesting time. So they blocked down, and then we started bringing the king to the other side, thinking we're getting up here or supporting whatever potential attacks they're going to have. That was a waste of time, really. And I realized it as I was doing the moves. I'm thinking, well, he's just going to come over here and get pieces attacking this pawn. So from this point on, really, I resigned myself to actually kind of not winning the game, and it's just a sitting waiting game to see when they take the pawn off here and get their king across. So we move the king here because I'm thinking, well, there's nothing I can do about that, but all this is going to start happening, and I should not have been thinking that way. So he moves the king there, put the check on. He's getting the advantages now. We're just getting the rook up, and for a moment I thought, oh, I've got something, you know, I've got something. If the bishop comes here, that's all I was thinking. If the bishop comes here, maybe we'll get this or something or the other. And then they did the rook move. I'm like, oh, you're joking. You're joking. I sat there for ages thinking, how can I get his king? Is there a sacrifice that can be made? Can I take this bishop off the board and just play with the bishop holding court, holding the pawns? It says rook f3. Well, I brought it back to rook f2. So the sacrifice definitely wasn't on the cards, but yeah, I really was going to go for it. I really was going to go for it, thinking, right, the bishop's protecting these. He's never getting in, but he would do. King comes across, tries to support. It's not happening, really. Yeah, so we brought the rook back, and then this was really the start of the finish, really. We captured, and I don't really need to go for any more. Yeah, so I carried on thinking, hoping that they're going to make some sort of mistake. And I'm like thinking, oh, maybe I'm getting a draw position round about here. Obviously in my head. So he drops here, and for the life of me, the thought process I had was bringing the bishop here, you know, to stop the bishop, but also to basically stop the pawn from pushing. And would that have given us a bit of an advantage? Just going to bring the bishop here? Not really. Yeah, so it's like going a4. Oh, what's it saying? Bishop. Oh, And if we take, then he's just romping down anyway. Getting to about here or something like that. Against, and this is move 26 against the 2066. That's progress. So it wouldn't have made any difference. Ah, very interesting games indeed. Nice tournament. And we've got 2 more games to go tomorrow, round 4 and round 5. And like I said, I've taken a bye in the 3rd round.
From yesterday's games, where we were basically just pushing forward with our usual gameplay, and from the analysis, really nothing major to report in terms of how we played. It's just there's something that I thought was missing. I kept asking myself, what is missing? There's something missing. How are they gaining that advantage in the end games when it feels like it's a draw? How are they getting that advantage in the games? You know, and then when you bring it back home and it actually is a draw type thing for a period of time in the game, how are they converting that into an advantage for themselves? I went to sleep on it, and then I woke up this morning and I thought, well, what is that extra thing? It was just bugging me. You know, I didn't dream about it. I just woke up this morning going, what is this extra thing? Anyway, started playing the round 4 game today, and that was a pretty normal standard opening for ourselves anyway. We understood what was going on, and we lost the pawn a bit early on, but then we gained the pawn back with some magical trickery, so felt really quite smug about that. And positionally, everything seemed okay. And then we got to the magical end game, yeah, where we're constantly getting to this end game playing against these high rated players. The opponent was rated 1867, something like that, and they started moving their knight to the other side of the board, and I was thinking nothing of it. You know, I just thought, oh well, it's a bit of an innocuous knight move, it's not attacking anything, don't feel threatened by it in any way, shape, so I'm looking to own the file with my rooks type thing, so I'm thinking this is pretty normal play. But then as it transpired, the knight came over and it was actually attacking our area where we had the pawn majority. Then light dawned on my marble head when I said to myself, that's how they're doing it. And it's so simple. I know it sounds simple, you know, little kids will be going, well, you know that anyway. But yeah, they start attacking the pawn majority side that you have to basically weaken it. And that's the majority of the games that we have actually played. Now I'm thinking about it, when the end game is kicking in, or just prior to the full end game, their movement of their pieces that look like they're doing nothing, but they're actually attacking our pawn majority to lessen the impact of the pawn majority. And it was too late for me in this game to start mobilizing my pieces and attacking their pawn majority, but that was just magical. That was a real good, solid, foundational lesson learned there, just from watching the movement of their knights. And then they brought the rook across, and then they were supporting their rook with the knights and the rook, basically, with their attack towards our pawns. So because we knew this, we then obviously said, well, okay, let's reposition. So we did reposition fairly okay. You will see in the eval. So it wasn't too bad. We still got a pass pawn type thing. But because they'd had enough time to really get their pieces around there, it gave them that moment's tempo. But the majority of the game was kind of drawish, even in the end game. So I've misplaced my pieces somewhere along the lines, feeling fairly comfortable about the results of the game. We did take a loss in the game, but it went to the wire, and yeah. So that revelation of attacking the pawn majority area when you can, earlier than you think as well, and it should stand you in good stead. So we're getting ready for the last game. It starts at 1:30, and based off of the epiphany we had in the last game, I think it's all said and done, I don't think I'll be playing anybody low. I mean, I'm 1300. The last player that I played was 1800, and so I'm going to be playing somebody in the 2000s again. Not bothered about any of that. We just want to play the games and see how we can improve the quality. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, maybe we might be able to practice that. If we get to the end game, they might just crush us and there's no end game in sight. But if we get to those sort of end game type principles, maybe try and push for this. Okay, let's have a look at their poor majority side and let's try and swarm it. Yeah, not rushing it, you know, making mistakes and stuff, but that, it sounds so simple. Attack the pawn majority. If I can nail that, I think I'll be a happy man, you know. And I think it is type of in the mantra, and I've just not embodied it fully because we've been focused so much on building teamwork, getting the pieces working together, the end game opening type things, and this difference really, I think, is key. That is the only difference. Notice from all of the basically the games that we played, is that end game process. It's so intricate. It's like, well, how did they gain advantage from that end game, which when you're putting it on the computer, it looks drawn? So how do they break through? How do they shake it off and say, right, no, I'm actually winning here, I'm going to win? When I'm sat over the board, I'm thinking, well, this feels like a draw, you know. Sometimes I'm offering a draw and then they go, nope. And I'm like, why not? And then they find something. That is the reason why. And I think it's the magical touch and the answer to the final part of my game development. I'm going to be so chuffed. Obviously, I'm going to go in there all excited and I'm probably going to blob everything. But I'm excited that I found that moment of epiphany.
Okay, so after playing round 4 and with the epiphany all shining in my head, I was so happy, I was so chuffed that I had found the complete answer for our mantra. Really excited to go into the next game. I went running up to the board and it showed I'd got a bye, because some of the players earlier that morning had said, well, they can't turn up or whatever, so it ended with us being uneven. So the organizer got us a game because somebody in the major section also had a bye as well. As we mentioned, some people dropped out from yesterday. So I ended up playing a 1738 from the major section. So we play as white. 1376 against the 1738. Yet another high-rated player, so much higher than myself, and we play as white. In this game, I said to myself, well, let's see if we can practice this new thing. Not going to force anything, but if we get to the end game, can we not try and compound the pressure towards any poor majority area that they've got? It was just bubbling inside me, because I was like thinking, I'm more times out of 10 ending up in those types of positions. Why not try and put it into practice? So we opened e4 and they blocked down and we attacked the pawn. Knight came down, we pushed through the center, they grabbed, we grabbed, and then the queen came down. I'm like, oh no. And to say I took a long time over this move, I took a long time over the move. I probably didn't need to, but I've not seen this. I've probably seen it many moons ago, where the queen's coming out early. It did smack off that film, what is it, Innocent Moves or whatever, where don't bring your queen out too early type thing. So I was sort of smirking inside, but at the same time I'm thinking it is quite dangerous really as well, because my longer term thinking was thinking, right, okay, if they get the knight here and they get the knight here and then they're going to be squishing here, you know, be doing all sorts of stuff like this. Also, if he gets his knight here, he's going to be taking this pawn and the queen's going to be taking. So there's a rhythm to this, that we're going to lose this pawn from that activity of the knight being here. And obviously the bishop's going to be coming shooting out, putting a check on the king if we develop this knight. So that's why I was taking so long, because I'm like thinking, I've been scuppered already. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring the knight out. I can't push the pawn because the queen has got the x-ray through to the king. It took absolutely ages. I can't bring the bishop out to protect the pawn because this knight will just take the knight because the queen is defending the knight. So all of this stuff I was thinking causing myself a lot of trouble. So I took ages and ages and ages and ages and ages over the simple move of bringing it here. All the while I'm saying, well, looks like we're losing this pawn, but does it improve their position on the board? That was the key thing that kept me going. Knowing full well we're going to lose the pawn, but really, does it give them that much weight? So the bishop does come through, so now we've got pressure here. We can't move the knight to protect the pawn. So if this knight comes here, then we're scuppered because it's got like 3 pieces on there. So yet again, this probably was the longest time I'd taken over any moves during any of the games in the tournament. Because I'm like thinking, this looks like quick and dirty tactics type stuff. Takes the soul out of the game of chess. So because we've been practicing against the quick and dirty tactics type stuff, I'm very aware that at some point the tactics will run out because it doesn't kind of improve your position if you're defending well. So I'm aware of all of the potential attacks that they can do. Not saying they may have not done it right, but we brought the queen up, defending the pawn first, also defending the knight, but really not too fussed. We're going to end up doubling the pawns here. So I had to resign myself to the fact that we're going to do doubling pawns here. We're going to lose this pawn, but is it improving their position? We've got 3 pieces developed at the minute. They've got 3 pieces developed. They're all widely spread at the moment. So the next one, they took ages over their moves. Absolutely donkeys. They took long time over their moves. So longest time I've ever seen anybody take. I was taking a long time over mine, but really they were extremely taking a long time, which I suppose it was to our benefit. So the knight eventually comes through and we bring the bishop here after a long deliberation of the fact that yes, there's going to be potential doubling of the pawns. We are going to lose this, but does it improve their position? Yeah, because we do have a touch on the queen. If the knight does want to do anything funky, or if it does take here, we still can put the check on the king because he's not going to get that here. Lots of thoughts going in, just did not want to get caught with the quick and dirty tactics type stuff. So yes, we've developed another piece as well, just as they have. And the bishop does take, so they are looking to get this pawn for free. But we worked out that, well, okay, if you're going for it, which they do, and the computer doesn't like that. I mean, I'm fretting, but obviously I've worked out my stuff that I'm going to do. So the smaller piece now is attacking the queen. And they did look a bit frazzled at that. So then they brought the queen back. And at this point, their time was so low, it's unreal. And so I was just hoping that maybe time management might work on my side in this situation. We look like we circumvented the main threat of their attack. Now we've got the x-ray through to the king. So we need to, well, in my head, I'm thinking we need to get the queen here and see if we can get their queen off the board if he's going to do anything fancy. So I just wanted to get the queen off the board, really get to an end game. Because if he's doing these quick and dirty tactics type thing, I'm just thinking, I don't think I can wear this sort of play, soulless play, where the tricks and stuff like that are kicking in. I was going to just go and castle, queenside castle. Don't know if that was the better option. Does it say anything? Where's it going? Knight f5. Oh, it's actually hitting the queen. Interesting times. Why didn't I not like that? Because I did do that in my calculation. I just thought he's just going to drop down and attack the knight. Yeah, we didn't do that anyway, so not even going to overthink that. Right, so it gives them a big massive advantage, but I'm not losing this sweat over that because we get the queen off the board. And now they took ages over this next move. I don't know why, because I thought it would have been a simple case of the knight taking. He's not going to take with the king, is he? But that took ages over this move as well. And then we said we were going to be doubling the pawns anyway, so we already resigned ourselves to that fact. So it's minus 1.2 for them at this moment in time. So did it improve their position? Well, it's given them +1. They haven't got any double pawns at the minute, and they can still castle as well. So on the whole, on the whole, we survived the attack, feeling fairly good that, in my eyes, when we're playing it over the board and you're seeing the pieces, because we already rationalised that we knew all about the double pawns, now it was up to us to try and manage the key squares and really just get either the king and the rook and everything into play, because his bishop's a little bit jammed in at the minute. Not too sure what the knight's really doing here at the moment. So they were doing preventative work, because obviously I had sights earlier on of getting the knight here and coming here and putting a check on the king and the rook as well. But I threw that to the wayside because the king can just simply come here and then the knight would have been bouncing all over the place anyway. Developed the bishop, feeling half decently good, and obviously I don't see the gauge bar. It's, in my head, I'm not saying that they're winning here at all. I'm saying that I'm feeling good about our position. Looks like we're going to start putting some pressure on the knight, sorry. So we do castle rather than bringing the king here. We were umming around about, oh well, you know, we don't even have to. But then when they castle, I thought, oh, I might as well castle as well. I was very mindful that the bishop could potentially look to do this sort of stuff, and if their rooks eventually got to some stage here, there would be a checkmate thing there. So very mindful of that in the longer term. Then they pushed forward with the pawn, making some space for the bishop. And now we can attack the knight. It's got no protection on it. And with that pawn move there, it's stopped the knight from having any other spaces to go to other than here. And I'm thinking now, because they're +1, we may as well double the pawns. So then at least it's like you can say that, well, a double pawn is like minus a pawn in a sense. That's my logic anyway. Yep, so now we've doubled the pawns there, so fairly happy with that. And then all we had was the basics of chess in our heads of getting the rook here, sitting the rook here, getting this other rook here, along the line, and just basically trying to go for a back rank checkmate. That's as simple as I was going to do it. Yeah, I did expect the pawn to be coming down and hitting the knight at some point, so I was very wary of that. And the poor bishop, again, potentially looking to come out. But if we get our rook up in time, then it's kind of holding this pawn to ransom a little bit. So we bring the rook up, and they push their pawn down. So I had this vision of them coming here and coming here. And I did think, well, I've got the knight that can block that. But first, we'll need to do this, because this pawn will just see it off. So we bring the rook here. Looking for the back rank stuff, as we said, but also looking at the full picture of this as well, with the prevention from this to this. And if we do get the back rank, then if the bishop does move, which I think it will try and do some sort of fancy business, we could take this pawn off the board and look to exchange the rooks. I'm not saying it's 100% perfect in any way, shape, but the idea that we were focusing on from the last game, the epiphany, was to compound pressure towards the opponent's pawn majority. And that was really setting the stone, setting it alight for us here. Because we've got the knight here, it's not attacking, but it's in that area of their majority. We've got the rook potentially threatening a pawn in their majority area. So we are being proactive with what we have just recently learned. So feeling really good that, oh, this is a good objective. Never mind what the gauge bar is showing drawish. Most of the games do show drawish, and so which is good. We're showing that we're doing something right. And the king moves across, and I'm thinking that surely must have given us tempo to move the rook across. And now they're going for their dream maneuver. So we push the pawn up so that it can't hit the knight when we drop here. And they continue with their motion, and we bring the knight here. So obviously seeing that, and obviously I've got the picture of the bishop coming here, attacking the pawn. I'm not going to lose too much sleep over that at this moment in time during the game. I'm just thinking I need to cause some devastation, and if we can get this here, then we look to be going here. Yeah. So if we go here, first of all, this rook is going to come here because it's going to want to protect this pawn, or else he's going to get back rank mated. So the bishop does come through. Don't lose any sleep over that. We bring the rook up. Still showing drawish, so whatever the opponent movements the opponent did, obviously. So now they've gone defending, and we can capture. Still showing drawish. We capture, captures, and we capture. So we're reducing down the pawn majority. That was our focal point. Just reduce down that pawn majority, and it was working. It was working a treat. So with them, they captured, and we bring the rook across, attacking more of their pawn majority. And we can now simply capture again. King's got space. Did have the panic on, thinking, well, can the bishop do what we said? Okay, but he's not. It's not in the right angle to be coming here and then doing like a mate type thing. But it is showing drawish at this moment in time still. Captures, captures. Brings the rook across. And their time was running so low, they did actually offer a draw. And they offered a draw here. And I looked at their time on the ticker. And it was something like 11 seconds or something. And I thought to myself, oh, you know, I could be such a kind man and just say, yeah, draw. But I thought, you know, I've not had a win in ages. Do you know what I mean? Not that I play these games for a win, but I just thought, oh, well, let's just be dirty and just let's get a dirty flag going. But in my head, I'm still thinking, I think that this is a genuine win for us. Human eyes, never mind what the gauge bar is showing, human eyes, I think this is a win for us. If he continued playing, I don't think that there'd be a problem. So they moved across. We moved the king across. Pushed his pawn down. I brought the rook up, and then his flag went. So I had to point at the flag, and he looked so distressed. He looked so distressed. I don't think he was concentrating on his time, but he was adamant that it looked like a draw. So says, okay, well, we'll play it through then and see what happens. And first thing he did was, let's just yeah, so he did that. We pushed past, brought the king across, and he didn't like the look of that continuation, so he says, oh, well, no, let's try another way. Let's try another way. So I thought, okay, fine. So he moved his king, moved my king up, pushed the pawn down, moved my king up, moved his king down, moved the king up, pushed his pawn, brought the rook down, and he pushed his pawn. I don't know what captured, and basically says, oh no, I see, it wasn't a draw. But the computer is showing that it's a draw, but you have to play like a computer in order for it to get a draw, you know. So based on his actual post-game analysis moves and his selections, it would have been a victory for us. Good job we weren't playing stockfish though. So before the last round match against the major player, I bumped into the first player that I played, and basically the 2001 rated player. And basically she said my game was the toughest game that she's had in the tournament. And I thought that was, oh, beautiful.